Greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where we are discussing climate change, abrupt climate change, and the possibility of near-term, not just human extinction, but planet-wide, species-wide, full-out, a mass extinction. Sixth mass extinction is what scientists and others are calling it. I know that's very uplifting and very, starting things off on a positive note. This is the big fluffy jamboree hour, anyways, so let's restart. Welcome back to the big fluffy jamboree hour. I'm your host, Kevin Sandblum, and we'll be talking about really nice, positive things today. Yeah, it's really super negative, and I try not to remain stuck here. I'm actually a pretty positive person, despite the fact that I do this channel and I talk about this every single day. I don't spend my time. There are other things that are depressing me beyond climate change. Honestly, I have some other near-term problems that are causing me way more grief, and I know that seems weird, doesn't it? It just I kind of feel like climate change is there. It's like a given, like it's going to get really bad, and things are going to progress how they progress, and so I'm just kind of biding my time and trying to plan, not trying to plan too far into the future, but I've got like 6-month plans and 2-year plans. That's about as far as I can go with that, and there's much more to be done. There's my life is very, very full, doing the things I need to do, doing the things I want to do, and trying to just enjoy some parts of my day or some parts of my life where I can. But we need to really address, if we're going to address climate change and mitigate it, or let's say help people through the problem of where we are headed, then we really need to start with where we're actually at. And where we're actually at is in a really bad place. Where we're at is at an exponential climb in temperatures and extreme weather events, in methane being released from the Arctic and from other places. We are still gaining ground in the release of carbon into the air, CO2. We're releasing more than ever this year, and we're supposed to get down to 0 by 2025. So obviously not a lot is being done to turn the Titanic around. So let's look at evidence of this. So extreme weather events are happening all over the planet, and this is coming from Iran. I read about a little bit about this the other day. This is from the Watchers.news. Massive damage to agricultural sector, 36% of roads damaged, more than 60 people dead in Iran. This is from yesterday. Heavy rain and floods affecting Iran since March 19th, 2019 caused massive damage to the country's agriculture sector, damaged 36% of the entire road network, and left at least 62 people dead as of April 4th, 2019. According to information provided by official sources, flooding has caused at least 47 trillion reals, about 350 million USD. 47 trillion reals to the country's agricultural sector. While the government assures flood-affected farmers that all losses will be compensated, Speaker of Parliament Ali Larijani said the new year budget would not suffice to cover the damages. 36% of the country's entire road network has been damaged. 84 bridges and nearly 2,200 rural roads washed away. Across 15 provinces, 141 rivers burst their banks and around 400 landslides were reported, a spokesman for the National Disaster Management Organization told state TV. About 1,900 cities and villages have been affected in 25 of Iran's 31 provinces. At least 62 people have been killed so far, and 86,000 people moved to emergency shelters. Golistan province, for example, received 70% of its annual rainfall in just one day. This is unprecedented for the past 300 years, the IFRC said. And that's the end of that article. Again, we're having catastrophic floods in the Midwest, catastrophic floods in Mozambique, in Iran. There was catastrophic flooding in Australia just a month or two ago. And on it goes. This is from Live Science. From today, the Bering Sea should be frozen right now, and it isn't. This is also an ongoing story. The Arctic ice is not freezing in the winter. That is bad news for the very near future of the planet, of humanity. If we have a blue ocean event, and all signs point to having a blue ocean event either this year or next year, possibly the year after that at the very latest, that means very bad things, capital VBT, very bad things. Humans are living through a dramatic transformation of the planet's surface due to climate change, with the most obvious sign being the rapid decline in Arctic sea ice. And now imaging has revealed perhaps a new chapter in that decline. The Bering Sea, which under normal circumstances should remain frozen over until May, is almost entirely free of ice in early April. Part of what makes this event so stunning, as the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration pointed out in a statement, is that the Arctic sea ice should be reaching its annual maximum right now. The summer reduction in sea ice normally only begins around now, and that process has, throughout recorded history, left the region between Russia and Alaska frozen at this time of year. But 2019 already has the lowest Arctic sea ice extent on record, beating 2018, which is also a record breaker, and that's manifesting in an unseasonably liquid sea off Alaska's northwest coast. The dramatic ice melt in the Arctic won't drive up sea levels directly. That ice was already floating in the ocean, so it already counted toward the ocean's total volume. But the melting will have tangible effects both on the planet's climate and on the people and the economies that rely on the Arctic region. As Live Science has previously reported, surface ice acts as a kind of climate regulator. The surface of ice is bright white, so it reflects sunlight back into space. When the planet has lots of ice on its surface, less of the sun's energy stays on Earth and the planet warms more slowly. But open water is darker and absorbs more sunlight, turning it into heat. So while sea ice loss is caused by climate change, it also causes climate change to speed up. A more immediate impact, the loss of ice cover on the Bering Sea, means the water there will be warmer this year, according to NOAA. The low ice extent has had a substantial economic impact on the coastal communities that rely on the ice for crabbing, fishing, and even walrus hunting, NOAA said in a statement. Commercial fisheries are also likely to be affected for years, the agency said. Years and years and years and years. At this point, the decline in Arctic sea ice is likely to continue for a long time. The question of how far that decline will go is wrapped up in questions of how much carbon and other greenhouse gases humans continue to pump into the atmosphere, behaviors that lead to planet warming and ice melt. The sea ice loss we are seeing now is happening in the context of a world warmed by 1 degree Celsius or 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit above pre-industrial levels. A world warmed by 1.5 degrees would involve even more extreme and life-threatening changes, according to the IPCC. A world warmed by 2 degrees would look dramatically different even from that, with longer heat waves, less food available, and more regions of the planet becoming dangerous to inhabit. Yeah. moving on. Lastly, I'm going to cover in this article or in this video, an article written by Kurt Cobb from Resource Insights, Blogspot, independent commentary on environmental and natural resource news. And this is from March 31st, 2019. Carbon emissions reach record. How can we build solidarity to fight climate change? When carbon emissions appeared to level off from 2014 through 2016, some people were hopeful that industrial civilization just might be able to decouple carbon emissions from economic growth. After all, the world economy had been growing, and yet carbon emissions had not grown with it. Fast forward to today. Turns out that humans are still burning lots of carbon to support economic growth, as carbon emissions in 2018 reached a new record. The temporary halt from 2014 through 2016 was primarily due to the rapid replacement of coal-fired power plants with natural gas and renewable energy sources, a trend that by itself cannot solve the climate crisis. So once again, policymakers are asking how they can possibly achieve the rapid decline in emissions which the world scientists say is necessary to avoid catastrophic climate change. The answer is actually simple and extremely painful. They must stop focusing on growth and make an all-out effort to reduce emissions. Do you think so? One of the reasons that most leaders around the world refuse to contemplate this is that it would result in mass unrest, as those at the middle and bottom of the economic scale would be shut out of bettering their material lives. The only way to address such a situation would be to guarantee them the basics of housing, education, healthcare, and affordable food. Absolutely. Something that most ruling elites cannot entertain as a possibility. Yes, this is how we start. And then we start, the other problem is stopping the people with wealth from continuing their rampage through the consumer landscape, which basically they're just resource suckers. The wealthy need to stop or be stopped from buying up and eating up and chewing up and throwing away every single thing that they, feel that it's their right to have. I don't know how else to do this at the moment. One of the reasons that most leaders around the world refuse to contemplate this is that it would result in mass unrest, as those at the middle and bottom of the economic scale would be shut out. I already read that. Reversing climate change would undoubtedly produce a lot of economic activity. It might even allow for some economic growth, but if growth remains the objective of every society on the planet, then we will almost surely fail to address climate change. I was just saying this yesterday. And the day before that, and the day before that, there's also the problem that continues growth endangers many other systems beyond climate that humans rely on for their survival. The list includes fertile soil, potable water, healthy air, and viable forests. And it turns out all four of these are intertwined with climate change as well. The degradation of soil through modern farming methods releases carbon into the atmosphere. Moving to farming that simultaneously builds soil and sequesters carbon would address both fertility, climate issues. An increase in droughts and floods is an expected feature of climate change, and both endanger adequate clean water supplies. Also food supplies. Most people know that trees store a lot of carbon. Deforestation releases that carbon as the trees decompose, planting trees to absorb it. As for the air, what are we doing to make it healthier is speeding global climate change. Reducing air pollution reduces aerosols that come from that pollution, aerosols that block some of the sun's light. As we clean up the air, we let more of that light in, which then turns in part to heat. To move an entire global society toward a climate-friendly existence would require unprecedented solidarity and cooperation. The most difficult part of achieving that solidarity would be guaranteeing those at the lower end of the economic scale a decent life as they work with all of society to prevent the worst that a changing climate could do, and build a way of living not based on continuous accumulation. There are signs that people are beginning to think in such terms, as a universal basic income has now become an issue in the upcoming US presidential campaign. In India, so-called Modi care named after the current Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, or Modi, will give 500 million Indians free health insurance. I didn't know that. That's cool. There are concerns about whether the system will be sustainable as currently designed, but it is the kind of guarantee that will have to be made available to the poor in order to enlist their help in the climate fight. That, of course, was not the reason for implementing Modi Care. I believe it is no accident that many countries notable for their achievements in addressing carbon emissions reductions have generous public welfare systems. The list of those whose greenhouse gas emissions peaked no later than 2010 includes Australia, Austria, Belgium, Canada, Costa Rica, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Great Britain, Italy, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, Spain, Sweden, and Switzerland. Many of the European countries listed achieved a peak no later than 2000. Okay. Much of the former Soviet Union and Eastern Europe falls into this category as well. One reason is the implosion of their economies after the breakup of the Soviet Union and the fall of the Berlin Wall. Another may be the public welfare benefits that most of them continue to offer to their citizens. Solidarity and basic comforts are no guarantee of progress on climate, but they seem like a very important starting point, especially when one considers how large the task ahead is. I really like the correlation to the Soviet Union collapsing, their economy collapsing, and the fact that their emissions went way down. Of course. Instead of one following the other, we should make the thing that needs to happen in order to make emissions fall is that the economy doesn't necessarily have to collapse, but contract big time. It needs, we need to shut down the production of extraneous consumer goods, period, the end. And I totally agree that we need to give people housing and food, or the ability to grow their own food would even be better. What about giving people housing in some kind of agricultural communes where everybody can grow their own food and share what they grow, and people can take care of each other in that way and become much more self-reliant and not having to, and maybe they can set up goods and services within these small communities so that they don't have to get in a car and go outside somewhere for work. We have to, we have to radically transform our economy and radically transform the way we live. And the way we do that is we have to radically transform the way we think about what it is that we need to live, or do, that we have to live this way. We don't have to live this way. There's nothing that says that we do. There's nothing everything says that living this way is the worst possible thing we can possibly do. So I'm going to link all these articles below. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. If you would like to support this channel, you could do so at the links below. And thank you always for your support of this channel. I do get your contributions, and I do appreciate it. Until next time, peace.